It's a new product video for the new Legacy Scale 2884 EM-1 class steam locomotives. We have here today the Western Pacific EM-1 cab number 258, available under product number 11375. Also available is an undecorated pilot model, product number 11336. Baltimore and Ohio EM-1 cab number 7621, product number 6-11337. Product number 6-11340 is a Baltimore and Ohio Legacy EM-1 cab number 659. Product number 6-11374 is a Duluth, Mesabi and Iron Range EM-1 cab number 223. Product number 6-11376 is the Northern Pacific Legacy EM-1 cab number 5000. And finally, under product number 6-11377 is a Great Northern Legacy EM-1 cab number 2060. When you open the package, you will receive the Legacy Engine Memory Module instruction sheet, the instruction manual for the EM-1, the nut driver for removing the side rod screws so you can install the replacement traction tires when necessary, the funnel for adding smoke fluid, the smoke fluid pipette for accurately adding smoke fluid to the locomotive, 4 replacement traction tires, the dummy O-gauge coupler for creating multiple unit lash-ups, and finally the memory module, which is specific to the road name and road number of your EM-1. You also receive the 2884 locomotive and the tender. This locomotive is equipped with Legacy. It has a main stack smoke unit, smoking whistle, Legacy rail sounds in the tender, the new smaller, more discreet IR tether on the drawbar, an operating scale coil coupler, operating marker lights on the rear of the tender, operating class lamps on the front of the boiler, operating headlight on the pilot. Out of the box, it comes with a scale coupler, which can be interchanged with the O-gauge dummy coupler, again for multiple unit operation with other Legacy equipped locomotives. The switches for our EM-1 locomotives are located underneath the rear steam dome. This steam dome is held on with magnets and comes off very easily. There's 2 magnets on there to hold it on. Once you remove the steam dome, you will then expose the switches. The switches under the steam dome are, the first switch is program run. Program is the position you place it in to program a new ID number to the locomotive under either TMCC1 or Legacy control. In a conventional environment, not using any type of command system, the program position will function as the E-unit lockout position, which will lock the locomotive into running one direction all the time, and the run position will allow you to cycle through all 4 directional states of forward, neutral, reverse, and neutral, and then again forward, and repeat the process. The second switch down is our Odyssey on-off switch. In the ODY position, the Odyssey 2 speed control is enabled, and the locomotive will maintain the same speed regardless of track conditions or load. In the no ODY position, that's when the Odyssey speed control is turned off. The third switch down is the main smoke unit. Main smoke would be the stack smoke at the front of the boiler, underneath the smoke box. In the SMK position, the main smoke unit is on. In the no SMK position, that smoke unit is off. And finally, the last switch is our auxiliary smoke unit. SMK is the auxiliary smoke unit on. On this EM-1 locomotive, the auxiliary smoke is what drives the whistle or the whistle smoke. In the no SMK position, that's smoke off. for the whistle smoke. And yes, you can turn the whistle smoke off and run the main stack, and vice versa. Turn the main stack off, the whistle smoke on, and have only whistle smoke. For the EM-1 tenders, the hatch on the water deck underneath reveals the manual volume control. It's a large wheel that allows you to increase or decrease the volume of the sound system. Note that when you're operating in either TMCC or in legacy mode, you can control the volume off of the remote. However, operating only conventionally, your master volume control will be this thumb wheel underneath the water hatch. The EM-1 locomotives have 11 moving axles. So before we get this locomotive on the track, we want to do a little preventive maintenance. And to do this, we're going to use some oil that we took from the Lionel lubrication and maintenance kit. Then we put into a needle applicator bottle. What we want to do is we want to just apply some oil, light oil, to the axle for the collectors. Just a small drop on each axle. And this locomotive actually has 4 collectors, 2 on each engine set. We'll go ahead and work that in with your finger. This preventive maintenance of lubricating these axles will really help to cut down on any type of squeaks or squeals that may occur when you don't oil the locomotive. The other places we want to oil this locomotive are where the axles go through the bearing blocks in each engine, both rear and front. To do this, we're going to use our needle applicator and just put a small dab of oil right on the axle where it goes through that bearing. And we want to do this for each axle on both sides of the locomotive. Because this is a legacy equipped locomotive, it has a non-locking gearbox. So you can actually work the oil into these axles while the engine's on the bench. And you can roll this over both forwards and backwards with very little effort. We want to also oil the side rod screws where they go through the side rod. It's a small drop on each side rod screw. And then also a drop between the eccentric crank and the main rod, and then also the main rod spacer and the side rod. Just a small drop of oil in each location on both sides. And you want to do the same thing for both the rear engine and the front engine. It's also important to lubricate the axles on the pilot truck and the trailing truck. The trailing truck has plastic bearings that snap into the frame of the truck itself. It's still a really good idea to put a small drop of oil on the end of these axles where they go into the plastic bearings. And you want to do this for all 4 of these locations. It's also a good idea to just put a small drop of oil where the axle contacts the axles. This will prevent any unnecessary or unwanted squealing from occurring. There's no reason to oil the pivot point here for the trailing truck. A lot of play there. You won't get any squeaks out of that at all. And finally, you want to go ahead and oil the axle on the pilot truck where it goes through the die-cast truck frame. And just do this on both sides. So while this may take a little bit of time before we can get the engine running, it'll really help. This preventative maintenance really goes a long way in expanding the life of your model and also helping it run much quieter. I would actually caution against oiling the crosshead guides or the crossheads. Gravity will help pull that down, and those really don't squeak at all. You can lubricate the eccentric linkage if you choose, but mainly the primary spots are where the axles go through the bearings in the frame, and then obviously the side rod screws and the eccentric cranks, pilot truck, trailing truck, etc. Before we go out and physically program the locomotive, we want to make sure that we load the memory module into our cab 2 remote. So using our numbering convention of the last 2 digits of the cab number, our EM-1 is cab number 258. So we're going to use engine 58 as the ID number. So on our cab 2, we're going to press engine 5, 8. Now we're going to take the orange memory module that comes in the box. We're going to insert it on the top of the remote with the silver circle L facing upward. Press the info button. We're going to press the button underneath load. It's going to tell us the module is inserted. It's a Western Pacific, product number 11375, EM-1, cab number 258. Load engine data. We're going to press the button under yes. It's now loaded, tells us to remove the module. We take the module out of the remote. What this has done for us is it's told the remote that the locomotive is a Western Pacific EM-1 and it's set the cab number to 258. By pressing the scroll button, we can see that it has set our type to steam. Pressing scroll again, it has set our control to Lionel Legacy, and pressing scroll again, it's set our sounds to Legacy Rail Sounds. To exit this menu, we simply press the info button in the upper right hand corner one time. As you can see, Western Pacific EM-1 scrolls across the top and the cab number displayed momentarily. Anytime we press engine 58, the cab number will appear for a short period of time, and now we're ready to operate the train. By pressing the aux1 key, we change the icons on our touchpad. We have volume up, crew talk, steam let off, volume down. The circle is shut down. If we turn the red thumb wheel, and you'll see this move across the top, the icon here changes to a triangle. When it's a black triangle, that's emergency stop when the locomotive is running. By stopping the locomotive, it turns back into a circle for shutdown sounds. We have steam blowdown, tower calm, smoke off, smoke on, and in the legacy control mode, there's 3 levels of smoke on, low, medium, and high. We have marker light on, marker light off. These will control the marker lights on the rear of the tender. We have R for engine reset. We have Rule 17 lighting on and Rule 17 lighting off. When we press the speed bar in the center of the remote, we get our preset railroad speeds. We still have tower calm, smoke off, smoke on. We have this bar graph on the side that as we press the effects up or down icons here, I'm going to go ahead and press up, you'll notice that bar graph raises up. What that does, as you can see on the screen, it says labor increase. That will increase the intensity of the chuffing sound. Pressing EFX down or effects down, this bar graph lowers. And it's a labor decrease. That will change the pitch of the chuffing coming out of the sound system. Finally, we have this number 1, which is roll speed. That is the first speed step that the locomotive will obtain and hold. To get out of this screen, we press the aux1 key and we're back to our touchpad. Let's go ahead and program our locomotive and run it through its paces. Before we actually turn the power on, we want to make sure we add smoke fluid to the locomotive. This EM-1 model has 2 smoke units. One directly underneath the main stack and one underneath this forward steam dome that comes off with, it's just held on with magnets, just comes off very easily. There's a secondary smoke fill hole here, and that's to power the auxiliary smoke unit, which is the whistle smoke. So to do this, we're going to use the smoke fluid pipette that came with the locomotive, and we're going to use the 6-37841 Lionel Premium Smoke Fluid. This is the smoke fluid that we as Lionel recommend to be used in our locomotives. It's the smoke fluid used when we design the electronics, when the locomotive is tested both in the engineering department and also at the factory. Everything we use is Lionel Premium Smoke Fluid. So what we're going to do is we're going to fill up our pipette And we want to put the fluid basically from the tip to about 3/4 of the way up to the first line. Place that inside the hole for the secondary smoke unit. A couple puffs of air to make sure we break the meniscus. And again, we want to repeat the same process, about 3/4 of the way from the tip to the first line. And we're going to put that into our main stack smoke unit. And again, a couple puffs of air to make sure we break any fluid blockage in the stack. Set that aside. Thing to point out on this steam dome cover, there is a small O-ring on this brass fitting. It's advisable to put just a small drop of smoke fluid on that O-ring. Work that in with your finger to lubricate it. It'll help prevent that O-ring from popping out of the channel that it sets in. This steam dome is keyed. There's a small key on the back and a notch on the steam dome or steam cover itself. So make sure that you put that back in the right way. Push that down, it'll hold in with magnets. Okay, at this point we want to go ahead and program the locomotive. So as we covered earlier, we're going to use the last 2 digits of the road number, which is 58. We've already loaded our memory module into our cab 2 remote. So now we need to tell the locomotive that it's going to be engine 58 from this point forward. So we remove the steam dome closest to the cab, place our program run switch in the program position. I've got our legacy base connected to the track and power. Go ahead and apply the power now. Using the cab 2, I'm going to press engine 58. Already on the screen it comes up and says Western Pacific EM-1, cab number 258. I'm going to press engine 58 and the set button. The whistle blows to confirm that it took the command. It's now programmed. Now I'm going to place the switch back in the run position. I want to make sure that all 3 of the other switches are in the ODY position, so my speed control is enabled. In the SMK for the main smoke and SMK for the auxiliary smoke. Everything's on. I'm going to go ahead and put the cover back on so I don't lose it. I am, however, going to turn the volume down a bit so I don't have to shout. So I'm going to use this to control my master volume overall. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and turn the track power off. We're going to start over here now that we've got the locomotive programmed. Turn on the track power. We're going to press engine 58. I'm going to use that on-off button in the lower left-hand corner of the touchpad. And I'm going to press and hold it. You'll hear the dialogue as the locomotive starts up.
Dispatcher here. Do you copy? Over. I read you. Over. Please start her up and stand by for track orders. Roger that. Ready to move. Out.
Okay, so now that my sounds are fired up, I'm going to go ahead and turn the smoke unit to high by using the aux 1 key and pressing the smoke on button 3 times. Low, medium, and high. As you can see, it is normal for it to take a few seconds for the main stack smoke to heat up and start actually producing smoke. I'm going to go ahead and blow the whistle a few times. What that's doing is it's helping to heat up the element for the auxiliary smoke unit. As we wait for that smoke unit to heat up, there we go, got some smoke out of the main stack. Here's our whistle smoke. As we go through the 3 levels of whistle intensity, you'll notice that the output of the smoke on the whistle changes as well. So I'm going to go ahead and do low, hold it, medium, hold it, and high. So you can see that. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get the locomotive moving. As the sound system begins chuffing, you'll notice that the main stack will puff in sync with the chuffing sounds. We do have a double chuff because we're working with an articulated locomotive that has 2 sets of steam chests. Go ahead and play the tower comm for you.
Dispatcher here, you're lined up and clear inbound, over. Copy that, out.
And the crew talk.
Dispatcher, will we clear through the next block, over. Yes, all clear ahead, over. Yes, sir. Making good time, out.
Okay, as we discussed when we loaded the memory module, we press the speed bar and we get a different set of icons on our touchpad. So I'm going to go ahead and start pressing that effects up button so you can hear the increase in the intensity of the chuff. So at this point the locomotive is really laboring, or sounds as though it's really laboring. I'm going to go ahead and press the effects down button and you'll be able to hear the drift or the laborious chuff fade away and get more to a drifting chuff sound. And that is the decreased labor all the way at the bottom. So let's go ahead and put that about middle of the road for the rest of the presentation. Again, the whistle. The bell. This is a legacy locomotive, so if you hit the bell button real quickly, you'll just get a single shot of the bell. If you press and hold bell up on the cab too, the bell will stay on until you press and hold it up again, at which point it'll turn off. Alright, let's go ahead and stop the locomotive. Hit the direction button. You'll notice that the front headlight went dimmer when we hit direction. That's because Rule 17 lighting is enabled. We can turn that Rule 17 lighting off by using the Off 17 key in the lower right hand corner of our touchpad. When I pressed direction, the rear light on the tender came on. It's probably hard to see in the video, but because the locomotive's sitting at idle, the cab light is illuminated. When we start moving, it'll turn off. The tender marker lamps can be controlled off the remote using the on-off icons in the lower left-hand corner of the touch screen. Pressing the off key will turn them off. Pressing on again will turn them back on. Fire my coil coupler here in the back by pressing the R coupler key. Coupler opens up. This locomotive is equipped with sequence control. The way sequence control works is it's a pre-recorded set of dialogues that occurs in the locomotive based on throttle response. So to turn sequence control on, we press and hold the aux1 key on the touchpad, or the straight arrow button on the remote, for 3 seconds. We'll get 2 whistles and a short, or 2 dings and a short whistle to notify us that it's in sequence mode now. So I'm going to press aux1 now. The locomotive is now in sequence mode. So when I turn the throttle and go to the first speed step of the 200 available speed steps in legacy control, the locomotive will ramp up and get prepared to move out.
Dispatcher, I got a clear signal. Over.
All of this is occurring by just being in the sequence mode. I'm not touching any of the sound buttons at all. So when I go to the second speed step, that is in essence the first speed step for the locomotive, because at speed step 1 in sequence mode, the locomotive does not move. So now we're going to go to speed step 2. The bell turns on and stays on automatically.
Dispatcher, we are on the move. Over. Copy that. Out.
The bell will stay on until we go above speed step 24. So right now I'm going to go ahead and take the locomotive up to speed step 24 to get this bell to turn off. I can control this bell manually if I want. Right now I'm at speed step 24, so the bell turns off automatically. As we run the locomotive throughout the layout at various different speed steps, different sequences of tower comm will come on. It'll come on and tell you that you have reached normal speed, that you want to go back to restricted speed, etc., etc. The longer that you run the locomotive, the more dialogue you'll get out of it. Locomotive will randomly give off a grade crossing whistle sound. You make a dramatic change in speed, you'll get 2 whistles to signify that you're changing speed, etc., etc. So I'm just going to go ahead and play with the throttle here a bit and see what we can get to come out of it. I still have total control of all of the sounds, so if I want to blow the whistle right now, I can, and I will. We're going to make a dramatic change in speed here.
I'm at low speed. Out.
We're going to slow the locomotive down as if we're bringing it into the yard. So once I get below speed step 24, the bell will turn on automatically. Now we're at speed step 1. And finally we're stopped.
Dispatcher, we're at a complete stop. I'll let you know when we're moving. Out.
So to exit sequence mode, we simply press the aux1 or straight arrow key and press the R button, which would normally be in the 0 position on the touchpad. The whistle will toot to signify that we've left sequence mode. So now we're out of sequence mode. We can load the coal in the coal pile by pressing and holding that 0 or reset key for an extended period of time. The longer you hold it, the more coal it'll put in the tender. Once it's finished, it'll go through a dialogue to signify that the coal is full. Do that real quick. Just let off 0 or R.
My coal's full. Over.
Acknowledged.
Out.
We can also fill up the water tank in the tender as well. And do that by pressing and holding what would be the number 3 icon. Just let off the key.
My water's full. Over. Roger that. Out.
Okay, want to also run through emergency stop with you real quickly. We're going to go ahead and get the locomotive moving. We're not in sequence control. As I start turning the throttle, as we mentioned earlier, the black circle has now changed to a black triangle. So I'm going to go ahead and press that black triangle, which would be in the number 5 position on the touchpad.
dispatcher, the emergency stop. Come to a full stop. Brakes on, in emergency, waiting to stop.
Now, you hear it says waiting to stop. That's because we haven't stopped the locomotive yet. So let's go ahead and turn the throttle down and stop it, and you'll hear the dialogue that occurs then.
I'm in a full stop. We're all in one piece. Over. Good work. Out.
And now the locomotive's ready to run. Do whatever you want with it. Finally, we'll go ahead and play the shutdown sounds. Again, this would be the number 5 position on the touchpad or the black circle.
We're all done. Out.
And that's the shutdown sequence. These EM-1 locomotives are available at your dealer now. Again, there's several different road names to choose from. We hope that you enjoy them. Remember that these locomotives have a minimum diameter curve of 0.72, or a 6-foot diameter curve is the minimum curve that they will handle.